Attorney General Merrick Garland pushing back against testimony by an IRS whistleblower that the Justice Department interfered with the investigation into Hunter Biden.
Who was appointed by President Trump as the U.S. Attorney in Delaware and assigned this matter during the previous administration. I don't know how it would be possible for anybody to block him from bringing a prosecution, given that he has this authority.
Whistleblower Gary Shapley revealing just how long the FBI knew about Hunter's infamous laptop.
Saying, quote, the FBI verified the laptop's authenticity in November of 2019 by matching the device number against Hunter Biden's Apple iCloud ID.
Tristan Leavitt is the attorney for Gary Shapley and president of EmpowerOversight.org. He joins us now. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us, how has it been since your client has come public with this? Do you feel like what he knows and what he's alleging has been fairly characterized?
Well, it depends on who's characterizing it, doesn't it? A big amount of what he's brought forward has obviously been pretty shocking to the American people, and that's received coverage. And, you know, his motivation as a longtime career investigator, someone who's worked on huge investigations like the Credit Suisse investigation, received major awards within the IRS, and is very, very well respected. But this case was handled differently than any he'd ever seen in his 14-year career. And so he felt that certainly Congress needed to know and understand how this case was developed, and obviously Congress made the decision in voting to release the information that the American public deserved to see this. So a lot of this information, I think, has rightly surprised the American public. It's disappointing to see that some individuals, of course, Hunter Biden's defense attorney is out there, making statements vaguely threatening to our client, and and mischaracterizing what's been released, and so are some other outlets. And so we hope the American people will look at this information and judge for themselves.
Yeah, we used to like whistleblowers. We used to celebrate them. I remember we just celebrated one not long ago. What was his name again?
Vindeman?
Vindeman, yes, that's the kind of whistleblowers we like. This case is so interesting because there's so much evidence. Because Hunter Biden was an exhibitionist, a narcissist. There's so many photos and emails, and now we have voicemails. Here's one of the voicemails that we have on WhatsApp that actually sounds like it came right out of a mob movie. It says, I'm sitting here with my father, and he would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or a text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and the very person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call, and this is the important part, with my father. My understanding is that investigators at the IRS suggested, hey, we can verify whether, using GPS location, whether Joe Biden was there or not, and they were directed not to do that they couldn't do that.
Yeah, this was one of many steps where the investigators were completely blocked from doing anything that would extend beyond Hunter Biden. So they were told, there's emails out there that have been for some time about 10 held by H for the big guy. And there was all the investigators knew who the big guy was, and they were specifically told, you can't ask anyone about the big guy. They were blocked from subpoenas, search warrants that would have been at Biden's Delaware residence. Anything that went beyond Hunter himself, they were blocked from.
Let me ask this, Tristan. Is it common that probes stay on just the person you're investigating, that you're not supposed to snake off of it? Just forgive my naivety on this.
No, not at all. I mean, this investigation, as is publicly out there, of course, I'm limited to what's in the transcripts and it's been released publicly, but this investigation spun off from a different one. That happens all the time. You get information, you investigate, from there you get further leads and you develop those. And so these are absolutely leads that should have been developed, such as the WhatsApp message. So you look at, since then it's been reported that there are photographs that show Hunter at his dad's residence that same day as that WhatsApp message. It wasn't a voicemail, to be clear, right? And they got raw data from Apple for the WhatsApp messages and texts there. But it shows that. We know that 10 days later, the CEFC, the company in question, transferred $5.1 million into Hunter's business accounts. So you know, the evidence is there, but again, prosecutors completely block the investigators from following up on these.
What is your reaction to, I want to ask you about two individuals. One, Merrick Garland. You heard him as we came in. Merrick Garland basically said, I guess, that you or your client are lying about the prosecutor and the powers that were granted to the prosecutor in this case. But secondarily, I'd also like to get your response to Hunter Biden's lawyers, which you said you believe, I've seen where Hunter Biden's lawyers have said basically, look, my client was on drugs. But you suggested as well they're making vaguely threatening statements to you. Please address both Garland and Hunter's attorneys.
Sure. So as it relates to Merrick Garland, what Attorney General Garland has said is that U.S. Attorney David Weiss had the full authority to investigate and to bring charges in this case. He said that to Senator Grassley on March 1st of this year as well. Where Gary Shapley comes into this as an IRS investigator is that he was at a meeting after investigating this for all this time. He was at a meeting on October 7th, 2022 at the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office. And at that meeting, U.S. Attorney Weiss, his first assistant U.S. Attorney, and the head of the criminal division there in that office were meeting with both the Baltimore FBI, that's who has the jurisdiction over Delaware, with their special agent in charge and their assistant special agent in charge. And then with the IRS special agent in charge, and Gary, our client, was serving as the assistant special agent in charge at that time. U.S. Attorney David Weiss told that whole group that he did not have the authority to charge, that he had tried to bring charges in D.C. for the 2014 and 2015 tax years, which is when Burisma income came in, which are the years that Hunter's own advisors told him, you filed false statements in 2014 and you need to amend those, and Hunter never did. And then there's this unreported income from Burisma and other places. And so those were slam dunk years, and 2014 clearly would have been felony charges because of the false statements. And so those charges, though, had to come through D.C. because that's where that's where Hunter was living at the time. And so for Weiss to say, we tried to do that, the Biden-appointed U.S. Attorney in D.C., Matthew Graves, would not allow us to do that. And what's more, when we were denied that, I requested special counsel authority. Now, obviously, Gary Shapley doesn't have insight into what conversations happened between the Attorney General and anyone else, or even between U.S. Attorney David Weiss and anyone else. He only knows what he was told in that meeting. But he was so shocked by it, as were the other attendees of the meeting, that it became contentious when they all asked him about it. But Gary and his special agent in charge went back to their agency, and Gary took his contemporaneous notes and emailed them to the director of field operations at the IRS, CCing, copying his special agent in charge. And the special agent in charge wrote back on that email and said, you covered all of this correctly. So there is contemporaneous documentation of what David Weiss said. So this isn't about Gary Shapley versus anyone else's word. This is about why David Weiss said what he said, and that's for other investigators to find out. But Gary's done his part to bring this forward so that people can start to pull on those threads. And David Weiss ultimately has to answer for that. He sent a letter to Congress. It doesn't really look like that letter was, it's unclear that it was drafted by him, but he sent a letter to Congress saying, I have the authority. But if so, he has to answer for these conflicting things, because that's not what he told the FBI and the IRS in the fall of 2022.
And really quickly, how did Hunter's attorneys, in your estimation, vaguely threaten your client?
You look at his statement from yesterday, and he just questions the authenticity of the WhatsApp message and says it looks like, and he says out there, this information may be defamatory or something. If you look at the statement that he put out, he says it was put out by someone with bad motives. And, this is, Gary Shapley went through the entirely correct process of taking this legally to Congress, and Congress on its own voted to release this information.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. Great information. Tristan Leavitt, thank you for not only sharing it with us here on Fox and Friends, but obviously with the public as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.